Where in your business right now do you notice a persistent ceiling? Something you keep bumping up against? Something where effort doesn't seem to translate into results or movement or traction? And if you're honest with yourself, genuinely honest, what do you think it's made of? This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. If you've ever hit a ceiling in your business, a point where growth stalled, where the effort kept going in but the results stopped coming out at the same rate, where you found yourself doing more and getting less, wondering what on earth had changed, I want to talk to you today about what's actually happening when that occurs, because the answer that most of us reach for is the wrong one, and the right one is the real one. And it's both more confronting and honestly far more hopeful, because if you understand the real reason, you can actually do something about it. I've been in business for nearly 3 decades, and I've hit ceilings. At this point of recording this, we're at 27 years. I've hit ceilings more than once in more than one business. And I can tell you from direct personal experience, having sat with those periods and studied them carefully with the benefit of hindsight, the ceiling was never where I thought it was. It was never in the market. It was never in the strategy. It was always, without exception, inside me. Let me tell you what I mean by that. When results plateau, the natural human response is to look outward. We all do it. We want to diagnose the problem as external. Something about the market has shifted. Maybe your marketing isn't landing. Your offer needs refining. Your pricing is off. You need a better funnel, a different strategy, a new platform. You need to be more visible, post more consistently, get in front of a bigger audience. And sometimes one of those things is genuinely the actual issue. Markets do shift. Offers do need refining and moving with the times. And visibility does matter. I'm not dismissing any of that. But I've noticed something. The entrepreneurs who consistently break through ceilings, who hit a plateau and then figure out how to move past it again and again, are not primarily distinguished by superior strategy. They're distinguished by the quality of their self-awareness, their willingness to look at the parts of the ceiling that are made of them, rather than the parts that are made of market conditions or external circumstances. The thing about ceilings is they're almost always load-bearing, right? Meaning the ceiling you're bumping up against, it's not arbitrary. It corresponds to something, a belief about how much success is safe or deserved, perhaps. A pattern of self-sabotage that activates right as things start to get good. I know that one, but only on reflection, of course, only in hindsight. Or a fear of visibility that keeps your marketing perpetually comfortable rather than effective. A relationship with money that makes you unconsciously repel the very income you're consciously pursuing. Happens all the time. It could be a standards issue where your internal baseline for what you expect of yourself is lower than the level you say you want to operate at. These are the real ceilings. And no amount of strategic refinement removes them, because the strategy is being executed by a person whose inner operating system hasn't yet been updated to match the ambition. Make sense? I'm sure you've had these. I know I have. And the thing is when you're in that place, you don't see it as that straight away. It's not human. Our human reaction is to scan for threats, right? There's a saber-toothed tiger. I must stay safe. That's what we do. We look externally for threat to stay safe. It's a primitive brain at work. And it's never going to change. But when you can see that that's not what it is, when you can spot the patterns that you are completely and utterly subconsciously running, that you don't know in your knowing brain, you only can find them when you stop, reflect, really take a deep look in. And that's hard to do on your own anyway. It's much easier to do with somebody who's good at asking the questions that get it out of you. But it's so powerful. I realized where I was doing this. I remember back in, I think it was in 2022, when I realized that every time I could start and I could fly, but every time I would get so far, and I felt like and the way I said it was, I hit some kind of invisible ceiling I can't seem to push through. And it occurred to me that perhaps I was afraid of what my reality would be if I did. No idea that I was afraid of success. That's crazy. But deep down, there was something in me that was like, well, what does that mean? In fact, somebody asked me that question, and I think that's what probed the thinking. And it was like, well, what will it mean? Maybe it will mean I don't need to be looked after anymore, but I like having someone that I like being looked after. I like the sense of people looking out for me. Maybe I wouldn't need certain things, and therefore things may disappear from my life. Like, these things happen so underneath the surface, and most people don't take the time to explore them and uncover them. So let me break down what a ceiling is actually made of, because I think naming the components makes it much easier to identify which one you might be dealing with. The first component is belief, specifically what you believe is possible for you. Not possible in the abstract. I don't mean so you might believe that other people can earn multiple six figures or build a team or write a book or speak on stages, but what do you believe is possible for you specifically, given your particular combination of skills, experience, background, and circumstances? Because that belief, whatever it is, functions as a ceiling. You won't consistently produce results that exceed what you genuinely believe you're capable of. Your psychology will actually step in and prevent it. Crazy, huh? The second component is identity. Who you see yourself as, your self-concept. And this one's particularly subtle because it operates below the level of conscious awareness most of the time. If your identity is fundamentally that of a small business owner who works really hard and earns a decent living, then no matter how sophisticated your strategy gets, your behavior will drift back towards actions that are consistent with that identity. Because the brain is fundamentally an identity confirming machine. It's going to filter your perception, shape your decisions, and influence your actions in ways that keep your outer reality consistent with your inner story. And this is all humans, by the way. This is not just entrepreneurs. I know that's what you guys are here for, but this happens to everyone. The third component is fear. And I want to name the specific fears that I see most commonly operating as ceilings in entrepreneurial contexts, because they're not always what you'd expect. There's the obvious fear of failure, but then there's the fear of success, which is real and underestimated and usually rooted in what success would require of you, as I was just talking about my example. More visibility, more responsibility, more criticism, more problems, more complexity. There's the fear of judgment, the fear of outgrowing your peer group, the fear of being seen as too much, too ambitious, too full of yourself. And there's a particularly insidious one, the fear of genuinely trying and finding that your best isn't enough, which is why many people operate at about 70% of their potential indefinitely. Because if you never fully commit, you never have to find out. The fourth component is environment, and I think this is the most underestimated ceiling of all, because it's not internal, it's actually external. Your environment, the physical spaces you work in, and crucially the people you spend most of your time around, is constantly calibrating your sense of what's normal, what's achievable, what people like you do. And if your environment is calibrated to a level below where you want to operate, it's going to pull you back there constantly with a gravity you might not even consciously notice. So, can you think of a time when you've maybe gone into a room where the standard's higher than what you feel your own is at the time, and what happened to you as a result? Because I certainly have had that experience where I've gone into a room and thought, wow, I've heard other people say this too, I feel like everyone else is ahead of me or further along than me. I've had people say that to me. But what happens to us in that experience, and do we get the evidence? I want to tell you about my journey to Born to Be Brilliant, because I think it's relevant here in a way that I haven't always shared publicly. I've been an entrepreneur since full-time since my early 20s, and part-time and started out at age of 18. Multiple businesses, multiple industries, multiple versions of success and setback, and rebuilding as well, reinvention. And for a long time, a longer time than I'd like to admit, I operated with a ceiling that I didn't fully understand. I didn't understand that I'd constructed that ceiling. It expressed itself in different ways at different points. Sometimes it was in how I priced, not charging what the work was genuinely worth, because some part of me had a story about what people like me got to charge. Sometimes it was in my visibility, staying slightly smaller than I could have been, slightly quieter, slightly less bold, safe, because the bigger version of me felt unsafe in ways I couldn't fully explain. And that I'm not immune to, even now. Sometimes it was in the opportunities I said yes to and the ones I talked myself out of. And that wouldn't be because they're not right, just because they felt too far outside the version of myself that I'd unconsciously agreed to be. And what changed it? What has continued to change it? Because this is not a one and done thing. It's consistent. It was a combination of things. It was doing the inner work, of course, the psychology, the beliefs, the identity work. I've been doing that stuff for years and building upon it and building upon it. And it was building my skills and knowledge so the competence gap would shrink away. It was changing my environment, the rooms I put myself in, the people I allowed to be close to me, the standards I chose to be surrounded by. We do that sometimes to some extent subconsciously, but there comes a point where we have to be conscious about it. Born to Be Brilliant exists because I became convinced, and I mean bone deep convinced, that this combination of inner and outer work done simultaneously and with real support is the thing that actually moves the ceiling. And that most of what's available to entrepreneurs addresses one piece at a time. And then we wonder why the results don't stick. This is why we delve into the right podcast or personal growth book, depending on what we need at the time, or we go to this coach or this mentor for this thing, but then there's another thing. And there's nothing wrong with those things. There's nothing wrong with those things to support and help you. But it's all of the things. And there's always another thing. So what does breaking through a ceiling actually require? Because I want to leave you with something practical, not just a diagnosis here. The first thing it requires is honest diagnosis. You need to be able to look at your ceiling and ask which component is dominant here. Is this primarily a belief issue, an identity issue, a fear issue, an environment issue, or some combination? Because the intervention that works depends on the honest answer to that question. You need to be able to answer it. The second thing it requires is support. And by support, I mean specifically people who are operating above your current ceiling and can help you see that the next level is real and navigable. Because you can't think your way past a belief ceiling by yourself. You need external evidence. Your body does, your nervous system does, other people doing the thing you believe might not be possible for you. And you need the kind of relationships where someone can gently and honestly hold up the mirror. And that takes both types. That takes both sides of that relationship. The person willing to do it and capable of doing it, and the person and you to be able to receive it as intended. The third thing, and this one is non-negotiable, is action at the edge of your comfort zone. Not reckless action, I don't mean that. I'm talking about go crazy. Deliberate, stretching action, because beliefs change through evidence, and evidence comes from experience, and experience requires action. The ceiling doesn't move because you thought about it clearly. It moves because you did something that your old story said you couldn't. And the fourth thing is patience with yourself, because ceilings that took years to build rarely dissolve in a week. What changes is the direction of travel. And that, I promise you, is enough to be going on with. Don't forget, please, that eSchool is something I've created, Entrepreneur School, to address everything I talk about in all of my work. It's an all-encompassing whole performance hub. So whether you need an AI strategy one day and a deep dive into identity the next, we've got you covered over there. I want to leave you with one question to sit with after this episode, not to answer right now, just to sit with. Where in your business right now do you notice a persistent ceiling? Something you keep bumping up against? Something where effort doesn't seem to translate into results or movement or traction? And if you're honest with yourself, genuinely honest, what do you think it's made of? That question alone, held with curiosity rather than judgment, is the beginning of a breakthrough. So come and tell me about it, or even play around with it and explore it with me. Instagram's a good place to find me. My handle is @LucyShrimpton, or find me on any platform and come and tell me. These are the conversations I find most energizing. I will have that conversation with you. And if today has sparked something, if you're ready to stop bumping up against the same ceiling and start building the inner and outer infrastructure that actually moves it, then come and find out what we're building at eSchool. The link's in the show notes. It's all over on lucyshrimpton.com, and I'd love to have you in there. Until next time, you were born to be brilliant. Don't let anyone or anything convince you otherwise. See you soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.